When you open a $4 bag of supermarket chips on a Tuesday night, do you actually know what percentage of that bag ever grew in soil? What if I told you that the bag sitting in your freezer right now might contain less real potato than an average fast food fry, quietly padded out with industrial starches, added sugars, and undisclosed palm oil blends? Most Australians walk past those glass freezer doors assuming a chip is just a potato sliced up, tossed in oil, and frozen. The reality is much darker. By the time you finish watching this video, you will find out which 8 major supermarket chip brands are cutting massive corners. I will show you how lab tests caught one massive corporate brand secretly swapping Australian spuds for imported Belgian stock without telling a single customer. And we will crack open the 2 absolute best budget bags on Australian shelves that use nothing but pure potato and oil. The single most shocking offender, a bag that traded on local Aussie trust while quietly shifting production overseas, sits right near the very end of our list. Before we name names, we need to understand how the modern frozen food industry turned a basic root vegetable into a high-margin, ultra-processed science experiment. Making a commercial frozen chip used to be simple. Wash a potato, peel it, slice it, blanch it in hot water to stop enzyme activity, flash fry it in clean oil, and blast freeze it. But simple ingredients do not offer massive corporate profit margins. When supermarket giants like Coles and Woolworths squeeze suppliers down to the cent, food technologists are brought in to re-engineer the humble spud. To cut costs, manufacturers replace whole potato volume with cheap fillers like modified maize starch, tapioca dextrin, and rice flour. These industrial powders create an artificial outer shell or batter. It allows the factory to use lower-grade spuds with poor natural starch levels because the artificial batter forces a crunch even if the potato inside is watery and limp. Think of it like painting rusty metal with high-gloss automotive paint. It looks slick on the surface, but underneath, the foundation is completely rotten. Then comes the chemical color trickery. Natural potatoes vary in sugar content throughout the year, meaning plain fried chips can come out pale in winter or too dark in summer. To prevent visual variation, factories wash out natural sugars and spray the raw-cut chips with dextrose, a refined sugar derived from corn or wheat. They also douse the chips in paprika and turmeric extracts. They are not adding spices for flavor, they are dyeing the chips so every single bag looks artificially golden, regardless of how stale or poor the underlying potato was. Finally, consider the cooking fat. High-grade canola or sunflower oil is lighter, lower in saturated fat, and noticeably more expensive. To save millions, processors opt for generic vegetable oil declarations. Under current Australian labelling regulations, that vague phrase permits manufacturers to quietly blend in heavily processed palm oil without highlighting it on the front of the packet. You end up paying top-dollar retail prices for a product loaded with double the saturated fat, engineered purely to survive 6 months of industrial cold chain shipping. Understanding these chemical shortcuts changes everything when you scan the freezer aisle. The industry relies on you treating a chip as just a chip, blinded by flashy packaging and promises of rustic crispiness. But once you know how to read between the lines of an ingredient panel, the entire illusion crumbles into dust. Let us unpack the 6 worst offenders sitting in Australian freezers right now, going from the sneaky recipe tweaks to the most blatant corporate shell games. First up at number 8, sitting quietly on the bottom shelf of your local IGA, is Black and Gold straight cut potato chips. Metcash owns this budget brand, built on the promise of no-frills value for struggling families. On paper, 96% potato looks decent enough. But look closer at that third ingredient, dextrose sourced from maize and wheat. Dextrose is pure, simple sugar. Manufacturers dump it into cheap frozen chips so the outer skin darkens quickly under heat, faking an oven-baked crunch when the potato quality itself is watery and limp. But when independent consumer group Choice ran a blind lab and taste test across 34 popular frozen chip products, that added sugar failed miserably. The testing panel explicitly noted Black and Gold failed to crisp up evenly, scoring a dismal 59% overall. You are paying for processed sugar sprayed onto a root vegetable for zero structural benefit, leaving you with patchy, burnt edges and a soggy center. Moving down to number 7, we hit Aldi's Season's Pride crinkle-cut chips. Aldi built its massive Australian market share on simple labels and killer prices. This bag lists 96% potato, 3.5% vegetable oil, and dextrose. It looks innocent until you examine that vague vegetable oil line. Under Australian food labelling laws, generic vegetable oil allows processors to use heavy palm oil blends without spelling it out. Choice's nutritional breakdown revealed these Aldi crinkle-cut chips contained 1.2 grams of saturated fat per 100 grams, double the national category average of 0.6 grams. In blind taste tests, 4 expert judges ranked it dead last among all crinkle-cut chips in Australia, giving it a pathetic 46% score. Cook them on baking paper and you are left with a heavy, waxy grease film that coats your mouth, pure evidence of cheap industrial fats replacing clean cooking oil. If you think that is bad, number 6 stays in the same Aldi freezer aisle with Season's Pride French fries. These thin shoestring fries proudly claim 97% potato, which tricks shoppers into thinking they are buying a clean, wholesome side dish. But Aldi used the exact same vegetable oil loophole here. Choice lab testing clocked this specific product at a staggering 1.7 grams of saturated fat per 100 grams. That is nearly triple the category average and the absolute highest saturated fat reading across all 34 products tested nationally. Aldi markets these as made from real Aussie potatoes, shouting about the spuds while quietly hiding the fact that they are drenched in some of the heaviest, most saturated fats on the entire shelf. If you are watching your heart health, that single innocent-looking line on the back is an absolute minefield. If you are already itching to check your own pantry to see what you have been feeding your kids, hit that subscribe button right now, because this investigation only gets rougher from here. At number 5, we step up to Aldi's Season's Pride steak-cut chips. Designed to imitate thick, rustic pub chips, this packet abandons any pretense of a simple recipe. The label lists 95% potato, sunflower oil, and a massive chemical jacket. Modified starches, rice flour, dextrin, raising agents, thickeners, plus paprika and turmeric extracts. Those spice extracts are not there for seasoning. They are chemical dyes designed to fake a golden pub-style fry, regardless of how pale the factory potatoes were. In Choice's national testing, this product scored 48% overall, the lowest rating of any straight or steak-cut chip tested. Judges slammed the unpleasant texture. Bite into one and the artificial starch shell physically detaches from the mushy potato interior like a stale crust. You are paying per kilo for factory flour and industrial colouring rather than actual food. Number 4 brings us to a massive household name, McCain Pub-Style Extra Crispy Fries. McCain is a Canadian multinational giant that controls a huge slice of the Australian frozen potato market, supplying both their own brand and private labels across Coles and Woolworths. Here, the real potato content collapses down to just 87%. The remaining 13% is a thick batter made of wheat flour, wheat starch, maize flour, additives, and dextrose. That means over 1/10 of the bag you buy is processed batter, not potato. Yet McCain charges a heavy premium per kilo for these pub-style fries compared to basic straight-cut options. They are selling you cheap flour and seasoning at prime potato prices. The heavy coating also makes cooking a nightmare. Overcook them by 2 minutes and the seasoned outer crust turns bitter and burnt, while the inside remains dense and underdone. At number 3, we find Potato Utopia Crispy Seasoned Fries, sold exclusively at Woolworths. Marketed in slick, boutique packaging, the name alone invites consumers to expect an artisanal, farm-fresh product. Instead, the ingredient panel reveals a shocking reality. Potato drops to 86%. The rest of the bag is packed with 11 separate additives, including modified potato and maize starches, stabilizers, raising agents, artificial colors, and natural flavorings. When Choice tested Potato Utopia's beer-battered variant in their national review, it landed at the absolute bottom of the entire beer-battered category with a 56% score, losing to basic home brand alternatives. You are paying top dollar for fancy boutique branding that hides an ultra-processed product loaded with more industrial binders than almost anything else on the shelf. Down at number 2, the real potato content hits absolute rock bottom with Bird's Eye Golden Crunch Sidewinders. Bird's Eye is owned in Australia by food processing giant Simplot. These spiral-cut novelty chips contain a staggering 84% potato. Nearly 1/6 of the entire bag consists of vegetable oil, 5 distinct thickeners including xanthan gum, cornstarch, added sugars, and acidity regulators. That slurry of gums and starches is strictly engineered to stop the spiral shape from snapping during factory freezing in transit. Furthermore, Choice lab tests revealed that top Bird's Eye products contained over 300 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams, more than double the category benchmark. Simplot was also previously called out by the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission after 31 of its frozen seafood products carrying Made in Australia logos were found not to be substantially transformed locally, forcing a mandatory label rewrite to Packed in Australia. Finally, the most serious offender at number 1, Coles gluten-free frozen chips. For years, these bags prominently featured the phrase, "made with Australian potatoes," right across the front. It was a massive selling point for health-conscious shoppers and celiacs looking to support local farmers. Then, with zero public notice, Coles quietly altered the front packaging. The new label reads, "Packed in Belgium from imported ingredients." Coles silently shifted its manufacturing supply chain overseas to massive industrial potato hubs in Europe, shipping frozen potatoes halfway across the planet while riding on the coattails of years of consumer trust. Shoppers grabbing their regular bag on autopilot had no idea they were suddenly paying for imported European stock, disguised in familiar home brand packaging. That is the ultimate corporate shell game. Trading away local quality, the second an overseas supply chain becomes a fraction of a cent cheaper. Right, here comes the part that made watching this far worth it. After wading through a sea of artificial batters, hidden palm oil, and quiet country of origin switches, there is genuine light at the end of the supermarket freezer aisle. You do not need to spend $8 a bag on artisanal boutique brands to get an honest feed for your family. In fact, the two single cleanest products sitting in Australian freezers right now happen to be the cheapest, plainest, most unassuming bags on the entire shelf. Let us start with best option number 2, Coles Classic Straight Cut Chips. This comes in a plain white bag sitting on the bottom shelf of the Coles freezer section, completely lacking the flashy graphics, bold promises of pub-style crunch, or rustic marketing terms that usually cover for cheap fillers. Most shoppers walk straight past it because it looks like a budget placeholder. But flip the bag over and check the ingredient list. Potato 97%, sunflower oil 3%. That is it. 2 ingredients in total. No dextrose added to force an artificial tan under the grill, no modified starch jacket, no thickeners, and no generic vegetable oil line hiding an undisclosed palm oil blend. Just real potato and clean sunflower oil, prepared exactly the way a chip was made before corporate food scientists began engineering high-margin chemical coatings. www.choice.com.au Australia's independent testing, this humble bag recorded a stellar 90% nutrition score, placing it right at the absolute top of the national category. Its sodium content sits at a remarkably low 80 milligrams per 100 grams, comfortably below the category average. At $4 for a full 1 kilo bag, it works out to just 40 cents per 100 grams, making it significantly cheaper than almost every ultra-processed brand we broke down in part 2. Choice. When you bake a tray of these, they behave like real potatoes. The skin crisps up naturally, the interior stays genuinely fluffy, and your kitchen fills with the rich aroma of roasted spud rather than burnt flour or stale fry oil. But there is one crucial warning you need before heading to the shop. Coles sells multiple straight-cut chip variations under nearly identical house branding. A different bag sitting right beside this one on the shelf contains added rice flour, dextrin, and modified potato starch. You must look specifically for the word classic on the front of the pack and verify that 2-ingredient label on the back. Then we arrive at the absolute best option on Australian shelves. Best option number 1, Woolworths Essentials French Fries. This is the ultimate budget shoestring fry that most shoppers instinctively avoid under the assumption that a generic home brand item must cut massive corners. The reality is the exact opposite. Its entire ingredient panel reads potato 96%, sunflower oil 4%, nothing else. 0 added sugar, 0 artificial colors, 0 processing aids, and 0 hidden saturated fats. Yushowan Choice's blind testing panel awarded this Woolworths Essentials fry a 90% nutrition score, matching the Coles Classic options stride for stride. When 4 expert judges tasted it blind with no idea they were eating a no-frills budget brand, they specifically praised its strong, honest potato flavor and natural crispiness. Achieving a top-tier crunch without spraying dextrose or coating the spud in modified maize starch proves that quality raw materials beat chemical processing aids every single time. Choice. At $4 per kilo, it matches the absolute lowest price point on the market while outperforming premium-priced, boutique-branded alternatives that cost nearly double per bag. The plainest bag in the supermarket freezer turned out to be one of only 2 major national products that delivers pure, unadulterated potato and oil. It completely shatters the myth that paying more for frozen food automatically buys you a cleaner product. Quality in the freezer aisle is not defined by how much a brand spends on glossy packaging. It is defined strictly by what is printed on the back panel. To protect your wallet and your health next time you walk down the freezer aisle at Woolworths, Coles, or ALDI, follow these 6 non-negotiable rules for buying frozen chips. First, ignore the front of the packet entirely. Buzzwords like gourmet, pub style, rustic, and extra crunchy are purely unregulated marketing claims designed to distract you. Second, flip the bag over and check the potato percentage. If it sits anywhere below 95%, you are paying for cheap flour, starches, and processed batter instead of real food. Third, watch out for dextrose. Unless you want added corn sugar sprayed onto your vegetables to fake an oven-baked tan, leave dextrose-laden bags in the freezer. Fourth, demand specific oil declarations. If the label says generic vegetable oil, Australian law allows manufacturers to hide high-saturated palm oil blends. Insist on clearly named sunflower or canola oil. Fifth, scrutinise the fine print for country of origin statements. As Coles' quiet switch proved, big claims about Aussie farmers on the front can easily conflict with "packed in Belgium" hidden in 6-point font on the back. Sixth, do not let brand names fool you. The flashiest, most expensive boutique bags often pack the lowest potato content, while $4 home brand bags contain the cleanest ingredients on the entire shelf. At the end of the day, supermarket giants count on shoppers staying on autopilot, trusting familiar logos, and grabbing whatever looks glossy at eye level. They make millions by swapping real, locally grown produce for imported Belgian stock, processed gums, and artificial batters. But once you start reading the fine print on the back, the corporate illusion falls apart completely, putting the power right back in your hands. Thanks for watching today's investigation. If this video opened your eyes to what is really hiding inside everyday supermarket bags, hit the like button, click hype to help boost this channel, and share this video with anyone in your house who handles the grocery shopping. Drop a comment below and tell me, which chip brand is sitting in your freezer right now, and what does its ingredient panel actually say? Grab the plain bag, check the label, and I will see you in the next review.